Hi, Sheena. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Shaila, and of course, joining me all the way from Dubai is my sister.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to another COVID Conversations over coffee. I
Yes.
got my coffee. It's hot, and we're ready to get into this, to dive deep into this conversation. It's time to get serious, guys. It's a serious topic we're
Yes.
talking about today.
Exactly. So it is a serious topic that we are talking about today, Shin. I'm glad you did mention that. But it needs to be talked about, right? So I know that there's just no way of skirting around this issue. We do need to talk about it. And I'm so glad that we have somebody who is knowledgeable when it comes to this topic. So, yeah, so let's say hi to them. Ian Dakius is saying hi. So I guess he knows our guest today. And Luis Zeus Mondejar is also tuned in. Maayong hapon, amazing people. This is coming from Grant Mejorada Amoncio. Thank you for tuning in. And of course, the ever supportive ex-husband, his ex-boyfriend, is also joining us this afternoon, Jimbo Sanchez. So, talagang yeah, so I've missed having COVID conversations. We were gone for about a week and a half, Shin. We
Yeah,
were
sorry, guys.
we were
we,
very busy. Your hakbang team has been very busy, behind the scenes doing other stuff, trying to work from home and helping the Filipino people. So we've been quite busy, but we're happy to be back this afternoon,
yeah.
aren't we, Tina?
Yes, we are. And we have I'm happy that we're talking about this topic because it's so juicy, it's so thick, and we need to get into it. So, let's bring in our guest, shall we?
Yes, let's do that. So hi, Ken. And let's have him introduce himself if that's okay with you, Keith.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, guys. Hi, Sheena. Hi, Shai. My name is Keith Navarroza, or you can just call me by Ken. I'm an international certified addiction professional and also a recovery coach. And I'm here in Baguio, living during the pandemic.
Ayan. Ken,
Okay.
so you did say that you are a recovery coach as well, right?
Yes,
You're a
yes.
certified addiction professional and
Mhm.
international certified recovery coach.
Mm.
Quick question: how did you become one?
Good question, Shaila. Actually, well, first of all, I wanted to let everyone know that I'm also a person in recovery or a recovering addict. So I'm very used to, I'm very open when it comes to saying this to everyone. Why? Because um, parang that was a way for me to be able to stay clean. It is going the extra level of extra mile of not just going to my not just going to treatment, not just going to my support groups, but I had to, I did my very best to study again. It's a funny story. When I started to become clean, I went to treatment or rehab. I went to treatment around 2010. Um, and it wasn't a smooth ride. So take note na, yung pinakaunang rehab ko was 2000, sorry, 1997. 1997. That was my first, I think Sina Shaila knows about this before, nawala na lang ako bigla. And then it worked, but there were a lot of things that I wasn't able to address personally. There were a lot of um, character defects that I wasn't able to address. Akala ko yung addiction lang yung problema, but there were a lot of behaviors that I had to address na hindi ko na address because I was very young. When 2010, of course, I went to treatment. When I relapsed, I went back to treatment, and it wasn't a smooth ride because I kept on going back. I still relapse when I after treatment. Kasi usually yung expectations ng family ng mga tao, na-rehab na yan bakit okay, bakit bakit bumalik na naman or tumira na naman. Sorry for the term, tumira. But but there were some things that were missing. One thing that I discovered was aside from my meth addiction or shabu, there were a lot of things that may mga bagong addictions na pumasok tulad ng alcohol and ng gambling and actually any type of substance. I would really get hooked. But I had a drug of choice, which was meth. And for me to be able to abstain, I just really had to stop everything, especially also alcohol. And alcohol is a legal drug. Take note, alcohol is a legal drug. So I had to stop that for me to be able to continuously abstain. Now, one thing that really pushed me to become more clean, um, to become clean na mas matagal was to be able to. I tried to study again. For me kasi it's not hindi kasi I wanted to do some other things aside from just helping people. For you to be able to help people properly, you have to make sure that you have the right credentials to be able to do it. Hindi yung basta. Kasi usually pag recovering addict ako, gusto kong tumulong. Alam kong addict siya, tutulungan ko. But sometimes that's not the case. Baka I can just do more harm. But it's possible. I'm not saying that you have to be a professional automatically, but it's possible. So I was working in a call center, I remember, and then I was selling chili oil. Kasi when I got into rehab in 2010, I was beggar na ako, literal namumulubi na ako siya. Hindi ako kung nakwento ko, namumulubi na ako. I was in the streets begging for food, begging for money. I was in and out of jail. Everything na mahawakan kong pera, gamit, it automatically goes to the pawn shop. It automatically goes to the source. So I was just, living a life of using. That's about it. I did not have stable relationships. Wala, tanggal kaga relationships. I was bad news to so many people, my friends, my family. So I was just left there in the streets, di ba? Now, fast forward, to make it short, I worked in a call center. Siyempre, it wasn't my job was not sufficient for me to be able to study again, di ba? So I was selling chili oil. Ewan ko kung nakikita mo yung mga pinapost ko. I was selling chili oil a couple of years back. I was selling chili oil. Sometimes I would sell pasta, burgers, and all of these things. I would sell it to my workmates. I would just, babayaran na lang nila ako pag sweldo. And I used most of the money that nakuha ko doon for me to be able to get some trainings.
Okay.
So when I got these trainings, after 3 years, I was able to, of course, kasama na doon, it was a requirement for me to become clean, to remain clean and sober, diba?
Yeah.
So I was doing it. I was busy with that, and then eventually, I was able to finish it. I took the credentialing exams, which came from the US, and for some reason, I passed the 2 exams. So now credentialed na ako as an addiction professional, as a recovery coach, which means I can go to the US and then I'm able to practice this. So after that, I put up my own addiction center here in Baguio, and I joined trainings. I help out sa jail. But early this year, I had to close down the business because, of course, yung sa pandemic, it was really dangerous. I was also working in one facility, but it didn't work out because of the pandemic. So now I'm staying home. I'm working for a US company. It's online lang. So I just stay here at home. So that was something that, it was a major decision for me to really work from home. Especially now na meron na akong kids. I have a family. So that's my short story. And dami ko pang gustong sabihin, pero yun na yun.
Short. I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but I'd like to ask, what finally made you decide, what woke you up from what made you decide to stop doing drugs or getting into all these addictions?
Okay, well, I just really got sick and tired of being sick and tired. That was basically it. It was tiring. There was a cycle. When I was using at the latter part of my active addiction, when I was using, parang pagka tumira na ako, parang I would sana hindi na ulit. Ayoko na talaga. There was an insanity. when I talk about insanity, it's doing the same thing all over again, expecting different results, you know? Parang
Right.
in-expect ko na titigil ako, magdadasal ako, I would do this, but eventually, hindi ko naman nagagawa. And that's because of the fact that addiction is a disease. It's a brain disease,
Mm-hmm.
you know? There's a biological um, aspect of this addiction. It's not a moral issue. Hindi ka, syempre yung mga nakakatanda, especially here in our country na very close tayo sa families, family ties, parang pagka sinabing addict o ganyan, parang ano ba naman yan? Wala lang yan disiplina. Parang gano'n eh. Ganun ang
Mm-hmm.
automatic. Walang disiplina, ganyan. But the reality is, it's not a moral issue. It's actually a brain disease. It's a disease. And it has to be treated as a disease. So how do we treat an addiction or a disease? You get help. You get professional help.
Wow,
Okay.
that's an amazing story.
Yeah. So you talked about what is an addiction. Can I also want to know how can you recognize if you have an addiction? So I've shared. My close friends know this about me because obviously we've also gone on that same roller coaster ride with them. There was a time in my life when I was in college that I would find myself using ecstasy, Special K, Wari. I would use this at least twice a week when I was in college.
Mm.
And I stopped because there was a time when I was talking to my friends and I stopped mid sentence and she was like, Shai, tuloy mo yung kwento. And I was like, what do you mean? What do you... And then I felt like my brain is being fried. That's how I felt because I was losing memory. But I feel at least twice a week, I feel strongly that I wasn't an addict then. How can one recognize if he or she is already on that road to addiction?
Okay, it's actually with the word unmanageability. Meron ng unmanageability with something that a person is doing, whether it's drinking or using weed or using shabs, ecstasy. If there is an unmanageability, that's usually a sign. Yun usually. But I want the listeners to take note that hindi basta porket gumamit or uminom or parating umiinom, may addiction na. It has to be checked or assessed by a professional. Yun yung parating importante. That's something that everyone needs to remember na may assessment kasi. There's an assessment to find out yung severity ng addiction or kung merong addiction. Kasi not everyone who drinks alcohol not everyone who drinks alcohol will have an alcohol problem. Not everyone who uses shabu will have a problem with shabu. You know? Hindi na yan automatic addict, kunyari gumagamit yan. Hindi, it's not, hindi siya ganon. So, it has to be assessed properly. Now, paano ko malalaman o paano malalaman ng tao? Seek professional help. But there are usually signs pag may unmanageability na spiritually.
What does that mean? Ano yung ibig sabihin ng unmanageability? What does that look like?
Okay. Pagka when we come to financial unmanageability, medyo okay, so gastos na ng gastos. Mas marami nang nagagastos sa using instead of napupunta sa family. Nagkakaroon na hindi na nami-mismanage na yung pera. When it comes to unmanageability naman sa buhay, nawawala ng time sa family through using na lang. Whether it's drinking, gambling, or other stuff. Parang napupunta na lahat doon. So, medyo, kumbaga in other words, in our terms, nagkakalat na. Medyo nagkakalat na. Usually ganon. Kadalasan hindi yan nakikita nung person with substance use disorder or a person with the addiction. Hindi yan nakikita. And that's why it's also very important for the listeners to understand that these guys are sick. And kung meron na silang manifestations ng ganon, it's really best for the families to really ask for help. Kasi pag pinabayaan nila yan, there's only tatlo lang ang ending talaga. It's jail, institutions like rehabs, mental or psychiatric wards, or death. Now, pag jail, syempre hassle, may kaso. Pag institution, okay, pwede pa kasi gagamutin. Ang problema yung death. Kasi no turning back na yung death. Eh. So, yun yung key points that they have to remember. Asking for help is very important with a professional. Not just yung tanong-tanong lang with another addict, but really, really preparing. Kasi that's a change. Eh. So we have to follow the stages of change model. So preparation is very important when a person tries to change something, especially when it comes to addiction.
You were mentioning something earlier about the spiritual being as a way to finding
Mhm.
out whether you're already an addict, you're going down that road. Can you go on with that trail of
Yeah,
thought?
actually, that's one. Usually, nagiging spiritual bankrupt na yung person. It's hindi. Some people go they enter treatment. Kadalasan spiritually bankrupt sila. When I say spiritual, that's different from being religious. Yung spiritual, yung being at peace with yourself. Syempre, because of the using, because of the harms that was created by the using, talagang bagsak na bagsak talaga yung tao. And that's one thing that isa yan sa mga bagay na inaayos when a person goes into recovery. Not hindi siya immediate, but with the right treatment program, with the right set of people, support group, and all of these things, bumabalik siya, bumabalik, and it's very to having a spiritual um, spiritual connection when it comes to recovery. It really strengthens a person's recovery. Pero merong mga nagre-recover na wala talaga sila spirituality. Yung iba, walang religion. Yung iba, mababa yung spirituality. But it's very, for me, sa perception ko, it's very important for someone's growth talaga to have that spirituality para mas tumibay. Kasi the key is, it's not just to stop it's to stay stopped. And when I say stay stopped, that includes living a life in recovery, addressing character defects, processing your feelings, and so on and so forth.
So you mentioned a
Uh,
while ago. Sorry, Shin, did you have a follow up?
no, go ahead. Go ahead. No. Go ahead.
Sige. Because so earlier you mentioned how families should seek help and the person who is an addict should seek help. So what if a family member sees these signs that you said? So there's unmanageability, there's loss of time for family, can't even, have keep a stable job or, so if gusto na ng family, pero syempre, may hesitation kasi yan na I can't tell you, for example, when you were in that phase of your life, Ken, normally they wouldn't accept it that they're an addict, diba?
Correct.
Would like if I'm a family member, do I wait for you to admit to yourself that you need help, or can I? Would you recommend family members to speak up and say, "Uy, kailangan na nating pag-usapan to, kailangan ka na namin dalhin sa rehab center"?
Very good question. Actually, what I suggest clients and family members to first really talk to their loved one. They have to gauge it. They have to gauge it. They have to, kasi baka mamaya willing naman Baka mamaya, these guys who are in active addiction, minsan kailangan na nila ng tulong, hindi lang nila alam paano magsalita. Hindi lang nila alam, they're just caught up with things. Sasabihin ko ba to? Magalit sa akin, man. Kasi they're also self-stigmatizing themselves. Hindi din nila naiintindihan kasi they have substance in their lifestyle and in their thinking. So it's clouded talaga. So pag inupo sila ng family members, minsan papayag, minsan hindi. Pag nag-deny naman, syempre they have to check rin kung bakit nauubos yung pera, bakit ano itong mga nakikita nila, kung meron talagang, if there's enough reason para talagang pagdudahan, kunyari nawawala yung pera, or may nakitang video na kinuha yung wallet nung mommy or ng airpads, mga ganyan. Um, Pagka ganon, tapos in denial pa rin, syempre proper intervention is needed. Um, some treatment centers, they have a team that picks up someone. Yung iba naman, sineset up nila. Parang, tara, pa-check up tayo sa doktor. Pero pagdating sa psychiatric ward na pala, kaya sa rehab. So, ganun yung usually, but it's a very, like what you mentioned earlier, talagang walking on eggshells ang family eh. Pag nandyan, hindi nila alam paano ko confront. And usually, meron ng family members na fear. Fear baka magwala. Fear,
Yes.
and sometimes, the problem then is what we call codependency. I don't know if you heard about the term codependency. Ito yung sanay yung family member. Parang enabler. Yun, basically, enabler sila. Hindi nila alam nakakasama sila dun sa family member. Sige na, bibigyan ng pera. Para bibigyan nila ng pera. Kahit hindi nilang ipapadrugs, ibibigay pa rin nila. Because ayaw nila matira in relationship. And that's, sakit din yun. Sakit din yun. That also actually needs to be addressed when a person goes into treatment. Because in addiction, only one person uses, but the whole family suffers. That's usually what happens in an addiction.
Okay. So the treatment for addiction not only involves actually physically stopping them from taking drugs in terms of rehabilitation, also as well, right? I would say a psychological intervention or like correcting their thoughts or their way of thinking. Are you also doing such? Is this the kind of work that you do as well?
No, actually, what I do as a recovery coach, similar to a life coach or business coaching, what I do is I don't do the psychiatric or psychological troubleshooting for the client. What I do is, as a case manager also of the client, I usually link them to the right professionals because I'm not licensed to do that, and that's very important for an addiction professional to remember. Or as me, as a recovery coach, I have to know the hat that I'm wearing. I have to understand na hindi ko kaya mag ng meds. So I need to be able to establish good relationships with people, with doctors, with psychiatrists, psychologists. So it's not it becomes a team. So when I have a client, I have a team of other addiction professionals that help the person with substance use disorder para ma-address yung sakit niya. Now, another good thing about with your question regarding paano, kung ano yung mga ina-address, marami. Usually, nalalaman na lang when a person is in treatment. Depende sa, that's why assessment is very important. Kasi doon malalaman kung merong psychiatric disorder or psychological problems. That's very important because with that, doon nakakagawa ng strategic plan to be able to help the client. Kasi baka usually nangyayari before, yung addiction lang yung tinitreat eh. Wala na,
Exactly.
addict yan. And then they attend fellow 12-step programs or other, they have this processing of feelings and so on and so forth. Now, it's also very important for a psychiatrist kung merong co-occurring mental disorder, which means like there's other disorders, that has to be treated also. If there's bipolar, has to be treated also. If there's clinical depression, it has to be treated also. Because usually, yung pag hindi nakita yun, there's a big chance that the person really relapse paglabas pag hindi na-address yung mental disorders.
Okay. Ken, a while ago we talked about families and how it affects the entire family, diba? Even if one person is an SUD or substance use disorder, has SUD, substance use disorder. Because normally in our society, when you have one in the family, automatically people are thinking, you failed as a mother, you failed as a father, you failed as a whole family. What can you say to those families who feel as if, they
It's a shame.
Yeah, it's a
that
shame
they
for
have to
them.
hide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What words of encouragement or advice can you give to families who has that one person in their family who is an SUD?
Okay. Well, first of all, for the family members, always remember that addiction is not a moral issue. It's a brain disease. It's a chronic relapsing brain disease characterized by compulsive drug seeking despite harmful consequences. So may problem hindi na yan kasalanan ng mother or father or family members. Well, there could be factors like yung factors na um, yung environment, maraming factors that could affect a person's yung kung magiging addict pa siya o hindi. But it's not entirely in the magiging kasalanan ng mga family members. We should take that out of the equation. Our goal is to help talaga the person with substance use disorder. It's gonna be hard for a family member to help someone kung parati nilang sinisisi yung sarili nila. Initially, it's given. Mararamdaman niya. My mother felt that. Feeling niya, sama-sama niyang mom, ganyan. But, of course, the longer I stayed clean, the more I understood na it wasn't really her fault. I was really, um, not really, well, I was destined to be an addict talaga. Yung addiction kasi is um, it's pagka merong addictive personality sa family, there's a big chance that you might get it also. Like with my dad, workaholic siya. Talagang pag nagtrabaho siya, wala siyang pakialam. Talagang trabaho lang siya ng trabaho. Now, when I got mine, yung sa akin naman, syempre, when I started, nung nakatikim ako ng shops, doon ako nagkaroon ng connection. So sabi nila, addiction, the opposite of addiction is it's not sobriety, it's actually connection. So I found the connection with the substance, and then doon na ako, it revolved around that. And then, syempre, nagkaroon na ng problems with my brain. And I don't want to be scientific talaga, pero yung the addiction kasi there's a link sa limbic system, yung reward system. If you for the the reason why I'm mentioning this, I just want family members to understand the biological aspect of addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Like, 'di ba, when we eat our favorite food, pag kumain tayo ng kunyari, favorite ko, quarter pounder, ganyan. Whenever I think about it, natutuwa ako, na-excite ako, tapos I get happy. And then when I eat it, parang, sarap, grabe, parang may ganon eh. Now, when it comes to, the same happens with psychoactive substances. However, kung ganito kalaki yung reward na binibigay ng quarter pounder, psychoactive substances, mga ganyan. Imagine yung comparison ng brain mo sa quarter pounder at saka yung comparison ng brain mo sa quarter pounder at sa psychoactive substances. So, yung brain ko, automatic na parate yung shabu na ang gusto ko. Ayoko na nung isa. And, hindi ko siya nakokontrol. Hindi ko siya nakokontrol. Talagang, kahit na magdasal ako ng dasal, kahit na, I do everything para makatigil. There's a biological aspect, and if I don't address this professionally, talagang, I would always just keep on going back to that substance. Kasi may chance pa nangyari, nagkakaroon ng cross-addiction. So, for the families, just remember that it's a brain disease, and pagka may cancer or pagka may hypertension ng isang tao, what do we do with them? We help them. We give them, bring them to the doctor, or we give them meds. So, ganun din
Yeah.
ang approach dito sa addiction. Education is very important for the families talaga. Kailangan, marami na tayong ways for us to be able to really search, gain knowledge on ano ba yung addiction, ano bang pwedeng gawin. Pwede nilang
Mm-hmm.
i-google, they can read books. So, we're very lucky that we have these technologies talaga to find out. So,
Okay.
Yun.
When you said cross addiction, do you mean you also can get addicted to other things such as alcohol, or is
Yes.
that what cross addiction means? Okay.
Yes, actually
All
yung cross
right.
addiction is two or more na pagka meron akong primary addiction tapos tinigil ko na yung shab. So, sige, inom na lang ako, hindi na lang ako mag-met, ganyan. So, lesser feeling ko, lesser evil. But you know, it's not really the substance, but it's that addictive behavior na bumabalik.
Mm-hmm.
So, iinom ako, tapos todo, and then eventually I'll just end up, and I'll just end up using again, going back to my primary substance. So
Yeah.
yes, cross addiction is very dangerous. It's something even people in recovery kailangan nilang isipin kasi I've met people na okay, nasa recovery na ako, I don't use drugs, I don't drink, and then they start gambling. They start going to the
Okay.
casinos and all. And then before you know it, ubos na yung pera. Nawawala na naman yung pera.
Uh-huh.
Bakit wala ka na naman pera. Tapos nag-drug test ako, negative naman ako. Diba? And, it's not really the substance, but it's the unmanageability. The me
Mm-hmm.
not having control with a particular behavior. Kasi addiction is also a disease of control. Eh. Feeling ko
Uh-huh.
okay, kaya ko ng control yun. And even if I've had years of being clean and sober, naglalaro pa rin sa utak ko. Napapadaan ako sa mga pasugalan. Naglalaro sa head ko. Nagbigay kaya ako ng
Mm-hmm.
500. I think the other day lang I was in the mall, tapos may parang bingo doon. Sabi ko, kaya ako ng 500 dito. Tapos, alis na ako. Hindi na ako mag-withdraw. And then I caught myself, alis na ako dito. Talagang I had to, get up the escalator immediately because it's a chronic disease na, addiction. Unfortunately, for the family members, it's forever. Hindi siya mawawala. I can,
Mm-hmm.
I'm right now, I still consider myself as an addict, but I'm not an active addiction.
Recovery.
The reason, yeah, I'm in recovery. And I will always be an addict because if pagka tinanggi ko sa isip ko na, pagka sinabi ko, cured na ako, there's no cure for addiction eh. Pag sabi kong cured na ako, then nagiging mayabang, nagiging
Mm-hmm.
complacent ako with my recovery. And that's usually one of the things that would let someone end up relapsing. Nagiging complacent. That's why until now, I still attend my 12-step programs, 12-step support groups. And
Mm-hmm.
then, I have my, monthly meeting with my psychiatrist. Just to keep myself in check kung baka mamaya may mental disorder na ako. Nag-uusap na kami. So it's very important to really have that connection with people in recovery,
Okay.
and
Okay.
also with other addiction professionals also that are not in
Mm-hmm.
recovery.
Okay.
Yeah. I always thought that, sorry. Just wanted to say, because I always thought that, like, an alcoholic is different from a drug addict, from a gambler. So I guess, so I guess, if for instance I know someone who's a recovering drug addict, I guess I shouldn't be offering them alcohol at a gathering and thinking that's okay, because that's not drugs. It's alcohol. It's a completely different substance, right? So it's all one
Mm.
and the same. So an addict is just an addict, plainly, for anything that can be addictive, I guess. Is it?
You know what? That's a really good question. One of the most effective programs that I really saw was for a person in recovery to really continuously become clean and sober. The person needs to remember that any type of psychoactive substance can be a trigger. It can be a trigger, especially alcohol. Kasi, syempre,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, alcohol is a legal drug. Eh. It's a legal drug. It's available anywhere. And then, nalo-lower yung inhibitions ng tao. A person in recovery, yan, mistake ko rin yan dati na akala ko wala akong, because I'm not, shaking with alcoholism, akala ko walang problema. But the moment I start drinking, nakakalimutan ko na in recovery ako. I get loud, I get mayabang, and eventually I end up using. Kasi feeling ko, kaya ko naman i-control na pag nag-relapse ako, I can control it now. mas lalo na ngayon, mas malakas kasi, I've established a profession in this field. Minsan yung head ko nagsasalita, Ken, addiction professional ka na, kaya mo na control yan. Wag talagang ginaano ko ng utak, sabi, nag-meeting ka agad ako pagka mga ganun. I always share it to people na, even my wife, I share it to her kasi siyang nakakaintindi ng recovery ko. And yun, it's very important if you have a friend na nasa recovery, always ask them, are you okay to drink? Ganyan. So, usually,
Okay.
kadalasan sa kanila, usually total abstinence yung mga yan. Just like me, total abstinence
Okay.
talaga. Effective treatment modalities would usually have the total abstinence talaga.
Yeah. Okay, so Ken, we do have a question here from Louis Zeus Mondehar. He is asking, especially for me in this time of the pandemic, that they're indoors, walang rehab centers. Well, at least that we know of. If you do know of some, please go ahead and share it later on. But to answer his question, Louis Zeus Mondehar, what are the signs of relapse, especially again to those families who are living with somebody who has an SUD?
Okay, that's a good question, Zeus. Actually, yung mga signs, like what I mentioned earlier, is yung nagkakaroon na naman ng unmanageability or yung change of structure. Usually, parang late na naman madating, meron na namang nawawala na naman yung pera, may nawawalang gamit. Usually, yan ang signs. Yan ang
So,
nagiging
bilang
signs.
person, I mean, sorry, Ken. I mean, signs for the person na parang, okay, I'm relapsing. I'm going down the rabbit hole again.
Okay. Okay, that's a good question. Actually, with relapse, there's 3 stages of relapse. One is emotional relapse. Emotional relapse, mental relapse, and physical relapse. Emotional relapse is when yung tao parati nang nalulungkot, yung addict parati nang nalulungkot, ganyan nagiging masyadong masaya, masyadong galit, ganyan. Pero hindi pa siya nagre-relapse. Pero but meron ng behavior manifestations. Masyadong masaya or masyadong malungkot, ganyan. So, that's the first stage. Pag hindi na-contain ng isang tao yung emotional relapse, nagpupunta na yan sa emotional relapse. Sa mental relapse. Which means, andyan na, iniisip na niya na, nagbibiro-biro na siya na, kira kaya ako mamaya, ganyan. Or, nipiplay na sa utak niya. Sa utak niya na titira ba siya o hindi. Pag umaalis yung family member niya, medyo naglalaro na sa utak niya, naisip niya, okay, aalis ng punta ng beach yung family ko, 3 days sila mawawala, I can use today and then sleep tomorrow.
Wow.
And may mga ganun na. Ine-entertain sa first part ng mental relapse, medyo ine-entertain na niya. Hindi pa niya masyadong ine-entertain. Sa latter part ng mental relapse, ine-entertain na niya. So medyo gumagawa na siya ng plano sa utak niya. And then pag hindi niya na-contain yung sarili niya with the mental relapse, pipick up na yan ng drug of choice na. So yun na yung physical relapse. And there are ways for a person to really address. Katulad nung sa emotional relapse. If a person nakakaramdam na ng gano'n, masyado na ako nalulungkot. Especially sa pandemic. Kasi talagang nakukulong ka sa bahay. Even me, talaga nagsasawa ako sa mga itsura ng mga kasama ko dito sa bahay. Tapos, I find myself raising my voice. Nasa na yung kids ko, usual, malambing lang sila, pero ulit, ganyan. But, so, tumataas yung voice ko. But, like what I mentioned earlier, I go to a program of recovery, fellowship program, 12-step program in online. So I always share what I feel, I tell them na, okay, yung character defect ko na ganyan, lumalabas na naman ako, sumasabog na naman ako. And parang na-diffuse ko yung character defect na yun. So I get to share it, I get to address it, I get to make amends, which means it's not just I'm sorry, anak. It's more of I do some action for me to be able to make bawi. Paglulutuan ko, kakausapin ko, and then I explain to them, I'm sorry that I shouted kanina, let's read the book tonight, and something like that. And then that's That's sa emotional relapse. Pagka naman hindi na niya nasabi sarili niya sa emotional and sa mental relapse siya napunta, what a person can usually do pag ini-entertain na niya yung thoughts na gano'n, one thing that a person can do is to play the tape through, which means tapusin niya yung storya. Habang nainisip niya na, okay, pag nala sila, titira ako. Tapos enjoy. Kasi usually pagka yung mga addict, naisip lang nila yung masaya eh. But to play the tape through,
Mm-hmm.
but this is challenging. I want the listeners to understand that it's not very easy. Once once naisip nila yon, tapusin nila yung storya. Okay, pag nagpatira ako, um, ibenta ko na naman yung telepono ko, and then tatago ko na, sasabihin ko na naman. Line na naman ako sa wife ko, and then kukuha na, next, pag nakatulog ako, I'll start getting again. Day one na naman ako sa recovery ko, and so on and so forth. So, and then, so yun, tapos yung story, and then matuturn off na ako dahil, dahil yun yung ending. And And there's a lot of ways pa dun sa mental relapse to be able to address it. Another one is also going to 12-step help, self-help support groups. Now, sa physical relapse naman, kung napa-use na yung tao, and then dinedeny lang niya, it's very important to really, reach out. Reach out to a person in recovery, reach out to professionally, kung kailangan ng tao na professional, kung kailangan niya, talk to someone that he or she might need para makausad siya dun sa recovery. Kasi the more napatagalin niya yan, mas lalong nagdidid yan ng hole eh. Before a person knows it, ang hirap na pala makalabas dun sa butas. But the earlier, the better. The earlier it's addressed, the better. Pero we understand there's shame, there's guilt and shame associated with relapsing, especially in this
Mm-hmm.
time of pandemic. Ang dami kong kaibigan na nag-relapse. Hindi nila
Okay.
na-contain yung emotions nila, talagang nag-relapse sila. Some nag-ano muna, ibang addiction muna yung ginawa nila. Biglang, eventually, bumalik na sila sa drug of choice nila. Wala na akong pakialam kung wala akong mask o kung may lockdown. They would really just, they would get. So, yun, basically, they have to know what stage they are in. And they have to address what they're feeling immediately. That's why hindi
Mm-hmm.
naman nila maiisip kagad yan eh. But it's very important, yun nga, since nakakaramdam sila ng ganon, reach out na kagad. Reach out na kagad with someone in recovery. That's my suggestion talaga.
I guess they really have to just be honest with themselves, no? Then rather than
Yes,
just to push those thoughts aside. No, hindi ako addict, hindi kaya ko to. Like they just have to be
exactly.
really honest with themselves and
Yes,
look at
that's very
themselves and
important.
think. So
Yeah.
I guess I was gonna ask you, but if how's the situation now with COVID? But obviously it's risen, like as you've mentioned several times. I've also noticed. I mean, we're all online, right? So we're all able
Mm,
to do things online, and I'm sure we were talking about this previously that um, we have more access now to things online, like
mm,
online gambling. So this one is also another sort of an addiction, right?
yes.
Yeah. So this is another gateway for them, basically, for people.
Well, yeah, addiction, that's one of the most dangerous ways to really, get cross-addicted to gambling. Why? Kasi walang substance involved eh. Yung pure
Mm-hmm.
gamblers, walang substance involved. But usually yung mga addicts sa meth or sa alcohol, usually nagkakaroon niya ng mga nowadays eh. Ang dami ng access sa gambling eh. So talagang nagkakaroon sila yung tinatawag na trip nila magsugal. After they use, sugal tayo. That's the way they
Uh-huh.
wanna try to have fun. But take note, some people can do it manageably. Some talaga nagkakalat, talagang rock bottom talaga kagad sila. Sabi nga nila, di ba, if kung galit ka sa isang tao, teach that person to gamble. Yun ang
Mm-hmm.
sabi ng ibang tao. But it's a very dangerous addiction. Families need to remember na
Yeah.
hindi hindi porket hindi gumagamit ng substance yung yung loved one nila or a person that has an addiction, wala nang problema kagad. Just remember, it boils down to yung unmanageability. Yung napag-usapan
Uh-huh.
natin kanina, yung sa Dota or yung sa online, yung online gaming,
Uh-huh.
that's also
Yeah.
very dangerous. Like what I mentioned, yung sa ICD-11, bagong release ng World Health Organization or ng UN, yung International Classification for Diseases, na kinlassify na nila yung online gaming as a mental
Online.
disorder, as a disorder. So, can you imagine yung mga ganon, ginawan na talaga ng classification because it's a problem. Some kids, akala yung screen time na yan, they can really get hooked. Yung kids ko
Mm.
talagang off limits talaga sila sa gadgets, kasi alam ko
This is
yung
online gaming, ha? Gaming, not gambling. It's like tipong yung
yeah,
mga the kids you watch playing live because uso na ngayon yan eh, 'di ba? You watch people playing games online and I guess they get money from that. I don't know, but it's also an addiction now.
it's an addiction. Actually, it's what we call a behavioral addiction. It's a behavioral addiction. Yung ibang pure gamblers, talagang walang substance involved. So, ang nangyayari, they get addicted. It's not really the winning, the getting of the virtual coins. Hindi yun yung nakaka-addict eh. It's the process. Yung magbabattle ka, yung mananalo ka ba o hindi, dun sila kinikilig, yun yung nakaka-addict. They like that feeling because that feeling releases a lot of dopamine sa
Dopamine,
utak.
yeah.
Talagang yung nire-release talaga. So, doon nagkaka-problema. Yung mga bata gusto nila yun. Ang sarap ng feeling na yun. Yung ganyan. So, imagine at a very young age. And, before they know it, when they start ang nakatikim na yan ng substance or ng psychoactive substance like what I mentioned earlier, compared to regular normal rewards na dopamine, na nabibigay ng dopamine, yung mga bagay, yung sa psychoactive substance, ang taas, sobrang taas.
Wow.
And the brain will register that for the rest of the person's life. Hindi na delete sa utak eh. So kahit ako ngayon, alam ko pa yung feeling ng meth and ng gambling. So, I don't even wanna go near someone. Well, marami akong mga clients na nag-met. But I don't even just want to entertain the thought na hopefully hindi ako makakita ng meth. Ngayon wala na masyado. Pero early in recovery talagang, I still remember that high, yung pakiramdam. And pagka nakakita ako or we talk about it, like we call it war stories, pagka nakapag-usapan, nandun, umiilaw yung part ng utak ko kasi parang nagre-ready na yung mga dopamine. Na-excite, exactly. So that's the same with kids. So with the family members, they have to remember that with addiction, it's a broad scope of ang daming pwedeng mangyari. Ang daming mga bagay na nakaka-addict. It's the unmanageability that they have to remember. Pag merong mga kalat o unmanageability, yun na yun. Seek professional help. I always remind my clients that seek professional help. Wag lang basta Google, wag lang basta ask someone. And also it's important to ask second opinion also. Yung kasi syempre pagtatawag ka sa isang rehab may problema ganyan. Syempre they will say everything para mapunta yung anak sa kanila, di ba? That's money for them. Yeah. But it's also important na they need to research also what's best for my son. That's why they need to have an addiction professional that's neutral. An addiction professional that will help them find the best the possible best approach for them. Diba? Kung long-term treatment ba kailangan, kung short-term, and so on and so forth.
Okay. Wow, yeah. So we've touched upon a lot of things. To me, what was kind of alarming was yung online games. Like you think as a parent, okay lang yan, my kid's gonna grow up to be, somebody who can help society by what they're doing in the games, right? But ano yung, what advice can you give? Like for those with kids, and how old should these kids be, by the way? Ilang hours ba yung kailangang screen time na ibigay sa kanila na masasabi mo na okay pa yan?
Healthy pa.
Yeah,
Healthy.
healthy pa yan.
Healthy pa to.
Okay, for me, para sa akin lang talagang 30 minutes, 1 hour. And it would depend. It would
A
really
day.
depend. A day. Ayan.
So, addict na ba
Para sa akin
tayo
naman
sa Facebook? So, wait lang. Kasi di ba, syempre, some of us, we scroll through Facebook like nothing, right? We scroll up and down, and that's Facebook. I mean, and I wouldn't consider it an addiction.
Okay. Sorry.
Pero,
Iba naman ang gaming, I think, ang
Iba.
online gaming. So, although I
Okay.
seriously think Facebook and Instagram are also addictive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pero I do my very best to catch myself. It happens kasi like with the kids naman, yung sa akin lang. I was talking about kids kanina, yung 1 hour. Ang kids para sa akin. Kasi we do a reward system. If they wanna to do something really nice, they would usually request, Papa, can I watch dinosaurs, something, or heavy trucks in YouTube? Okay, so you can do that for 1 hour. And we have to be able to present something that they did na maayos. And from the start, hindi ko na sila sinanay eh. For the family members na merong mga anak na nagpa-phones, or sinasanay nila. Kasi usually, binibigay nilang phone para manahimik eh. That's usually the case eh.
Yeah.
Hindi nila biluhin.
Unfortunately.
Pag tinry nilang tanggalin yon, automatic their behavior changes. Nagiging masungit, nagiging iba yung ano. So, from the start, what I did, hindi ko na sila sinanay. Nung una naasar yung son ko, yung pinakabunso. Kasi na upuan niya or natapakan niya yung iPad niya kaya nasira, kaya wala na siyang magagamit. So it was a reason for us to, and I noticed the behavioral changes pagka nagtatagal sila sa phone, talaga nasa-stock up sila. And yun yung may addictive personality. So yun ang that's something that I really have to be careful. Especially pag biological son ko na genetically predisposed kasi ang addiction eh. So like when I mentioned sa father ko, siya nag-work ako, meron akong obsessive compulsive na gano'n eh. Pag may ginawa ako, talagang gagawin ko talaga. Nagkataon na nakatikim ako ng psychoactive substance, doon na nag-focus yung addiction ko. So with the kids, it's also the same. That's why I consider this as a blessing, me becoming an addict, because I'm able to really watch out for my kids para hindi sila maging ganon. And I'm very open, even with with everyone, my family members, everyone. Maliban lang sa mga politicians, minsan ko agad sinasabi pag may mga hindi depende kasi pag nasa profession hindi ko naman sinasabi I'm kind of an addict and so there's something, sinasabi ko muna yung profession ko and then right after kung required kung I think if I believe it's beneficial for them to know sinasabi ko.
All right, I just wanna go back to this question that I know this is your sister for sure. We grew up in the same neighborhood, right? Karen, she says, "Hi, Kuya. What would you say would be the most effective motivation to control or curb addiction, if there is such a thing?"
Most effective motivation to control or curb addiction. That's a good question. Pinahirapan mo ako, Karen, So, pag yung sister ko nagtatanong, anyway,
I guess she speaks from experience, right? Like she wants to like really know, like, because you said it's a lifetime already. So, ano ba yung effective motivation for her as a sister para matulungan ka?
Yung, what they say, motivational interviewing, that's one way to, sa mga addiction professionals, that's one way to really help an addict. Yung motivational interviewing or motivational therapy. You imbes na you look at yung pinagdaanan niya, you bank on what the person has right now, kung ano yung mga yung mga strengths niya, and then you bank on it. As a recovery coach, that's my approach, motivational
Mm-hmm.
approaches. And even pagka may mga nagre-relapse, most of my clients talaga in my addiction center talaga puro mga relapsers. And it's always me. I always tell them na, you know, we can have your past as a reference, but we'll not focus on that. We'll focus on what you have right now, and then we'll use that for you to be able to, continue your life in recovery. So yun ang nagiging,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them are really successful in the recovery now. So yun ang nakakatuwa doon. So motivation and not sticking to, kasi naman, ganyan na, ganyan, not sticking to that. That's very important. Yan, ayaw marinig yan ng mga addict eh. But what helped me in my recovery was just the love and the support, the motivation that people were just giving me, regardless how many times I relapse. Kasi ako, I'm a multiple relapser eh. Talagang grabe talaga ako mag-relapse. As in,
Mm-hmm.
now, ang galing-galing ko magsalita. And kinabukasan, pag nag-relapse ako, wala. Tapos, wala na yung MacBook, wala na lahat, wala na lang gamit ko, wala ka, everything. Talagang bagsak talaga. So, it's a one day at a time program. I do my very
Mm-hmm.
best to live my life clean and sober at this moment. And then I do it again the next day. So, and motivation really helps. Motivation really helps. For the family members na merong mga family members na merong addiction, they just have to help that person. Try to do their very best to just motivate that person to seek help. Seek help.
Mm-hmm.
Huwag yung masyadong, kasi ikaw ganyan, ganyan. But it's understandable, mararamdaman nila. But in these times when the person really needs help, it's not helpful. For
Yeah.
them, for me as an addict, it's not helpful. What's helpful is motivating you, to be able to go to the next stage. So stages of change. There's pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, and then action, then maintenance. What's important is for family members to help the addict from pre-contemplation or from contemplation to preparation stage. And even helping them to
Mm-hmm.
prepare for the next step, to go to meetings or to go to detox or to go to treatment centers
Mm-hmm.
and so on.
Okay. Well, wow, the hour is all. We've already been talking for 1 hour, and I just have to say this before we end the show that I am so amazed at how you've managed to turn your life around and use your experience to help other people who are going through the same thing. So, congratulations for being able to do that. And yes, it's so nice to hear a story like this. And um, obviously, we want to use this platform now. Um, if you could just share with us how or where can people suffering from addiction can seek help in the Philippines?
Okay. There's a lot of places for family members and people with persons with substance use disorder to na makahingi ng tulong. No, there's a lot in Mindanao. There's a lot in the Visayas, and there's a lot of Luzon. There's actually nung nagkaroon ng pandemic, wala pang sistema. Actually, nag-release yung Dangerous Drugs Board na bawal muna mag-accept ng patients. However, a couple of months back, inopen na ulit nila yung mga rehab. Meron lang COVID protocols nowadays. They get
Mm-hmm.
they get isolated first dun sa rehab, and these things. Now, it's very important for the listeners to really reach out to an addiction professional. They can call the rehab. That's fine. But syempre, it's really also it's best for them to really find out the best the best programs for them, because there are programs. May mga rehab na 160,000 per month, meron ding mababa lang. So they have to find out na kung saan sila pwede. Kasi
What to
I
do?
believe I believe that the family doesn't need to be bankrupt just for the client to seek help. There
Mm-hmm.
are ways for them to find treatment. And if kung dumiretso sila sa particular facility, syempre pipilitin na sila doon. Canvas lang muna sila. canvas. Get a doctor, get a get a psychiatrist na may background sa addiction. Not just a regular psychiatrist, yung may background sa addiction. Reach out to me. I can redirect you to people that have centers. We can talk about how you can you can seek help. I know a couple of people in the field, also recovery coaches in Mindanao, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Ito yung expertise din nila. So they'd be happy to help you out, find the best treatment for them that that also caters to their finances. Para it's a
Mm-hmm.
win-win situation for them. And but
How can they
remember,
reach you? Sorry. How or where can
ah,
they reach you? Email? Do you have a Facebook page that they can follow or Instagram?
well, they can just
Ayan,
PM me.
feel free.
They can PM me at my Facebook page, Keith Navarroza, or they can like Pines Recovery House. That used to be my addiction center in Baguio. Feel free to ask me questions, to reach out, and I'd be happy to connect you to the right professionals. There is a lot of addiction professionals in the Philippines. Sobriety Foundation in Pampanga. There's 180 degrees in Bohol and in Cebu, and there's It Works in Ozamis, and there's Sure program there in Abusan del Sur. All of them are addiction professionals that I know. Kilala ko sila magtrabaho. Talagang matyaga. They're really good. And more and more. There's one in I just wanted to mention this because this is also a good friend of mine. Maganda yung program nila sa CCR, Center for Christian Recovery. It's in Antipolo. Um, so reach out to me, guys, sa mga family members, and I'll help you get connected to the right professionals. Kung ano yung steps na kailangan yung gawin. I know it's very confusing. Minsan nakakataranta. We don't know what to do. Um, you know, let's just reach out. Reach out. That's the first step. And if you don't know what to do, reach out pa rin. That's it.
Yes.
All right. So thank you so much, Ken. Again, the hour has passed so quickly, but obviously, a lot of people tuned in to us, and we really want to thank your friends as well. I know they joined us. George Gonzalez, Vanessa Olarte Gonzaga said hello a while ago. Ian Dakis was also on board with us. Caroline Duro. So a lot of people, and it seems like there really is interest in and around this topic because it is very relevant to the times. So once again, Ken, thank you so much, and I hope someday soon we can have a longer chat over coffee. Ayan. So all right. So Sheena, I wanna, that was a very inspirational talk in so many ways. It allowed
Yes.
us to speak about the topic that we thought was taboo or we usually think is taboo, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So yeah, we want to thank everybody for joining us today. I hope you picked up, a lot, because I know I did. I know if you guys have family who are recovering addicts, then at least
And
now
if
we know.
you are one, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, there is no shame. There is absolutely no shame in admitting to yourself because that's the first step to seeking help, diba?
yeah, exactly.
So
So
there.
yeah, so there, thank you so much, guys, for joining us tonight. Again, like what Sheena said, sometimes, and what Ken has been saying, seek help. I think, as long as you have a heartbeat, there is hope. So Ken
Absolutely.
has shared with us that there are a lot of centers that are willing to help you guys out. So do reach out. I know it can be the hardest thing, but it will also be your first step towards a better life. And with that, we want to say thank you and good night for all of those who are watching. Catch us again on Thursday. And my name is Shaila. I am joining you from this little town in Mindanao here in Butuan.
And my name is Sheena, all the way from Dubai. Bye.
So thanks,
Good
everybody.
night.
Good night.